and gender non-conforming romantic partners who communicate about gender-affirming identity needs with cisgender partners. Come on up.
Hello, y'all. I'm not going to be having a presentation, so it's just going to be me. So, let's begin. Before I knew it, like a broken dam, the words were just uncontrollably spewing from my mouth. Babe, I'm not like the other girls, I cry. What? She asks. I take a deep breath. I think to myself first, do I really want to go down this path? What if she's only into girls that dress super feminine? What if she's weirded out or embarrassed by me? What if she thinks I've been lying to her all of this time? I think some more. Maddison, what's going on? Why aren't you like other girls? She asks. I look up from the ground and our eyes meet from across the room. She's no longer looking at her phone. She's concerned. I can tell from the way her eyes are looking at me like she's about to lose something. Okay, I just don't feel pretty like other girls. Like, I try so hard to dress up and look feminine, but I never feel as sexy or beautiful as all the other girls seem to be. I just don't feel like I'm a girl enough sometimes. A moment passes. I felt this way since I was a kid. I add in hopes of backing up the feelings I just expressed. To be honest, she didn't have much of a reaction. She nodded and said that I was okay and reminded me that I was beautiful. It wasn't a monumental conversation or even a memory worth keeping for Allie, but that was the real beginning of my trans story. That was the beginning of me accepting my trans self. Greetings, everyone. My name is Maddison Russell. I'm a doctoral candidate from the University of South Florida, and I have the great honor of sharing my recent study with you all. The title's been said many times, and it's kind of long, so I will spare you all that one. But to grapple with the pervasive cultural issue of better understanding TGNC, or transgender and gender nonconforming, communication and identity negotiation, as it directly relates to gender-affirming identity needs outside of the patient-provider scope, this study turns its attention towards the relational complexities that intersect with gender-based identity needs of TGNC romantic partners by analyzing conversations I shared with my girlfriend at separate points in our 6-year relationship, utilizing autoethnographic methods and multiple goals theorization. Autoethnography is a creative and dynamic relational methodology that is systematically enacted to explore culturally salient experiences that are endured by others. Further, autoethnography draws on a theoretical perspective that works to describe, analyze, interpret, and think critically about culture, cultural identities, and those relational processes endemic to both. This is often achieved through analyzing first-person accounts of relational tension and uncertainty, paired with thickened description and an emphasis on the emotional. Such labor pushes scholars like myself to identify, accept, explore, and advocate for the otherwise profusion of valuable stories and beings that merit scholarly inclusion, attention, and care. With an autoethnographic perspective in mind, I sought out multiple goals theory not only because it's a valuable sense-making framework that enabled me to better understand how relational expectations can shift to create a more satisfying romantic relationship, but I also chose multiple goals theory because it purports that communication is purposeful and used strategically to manage and negotiate personal and relational identity, with the understanding that these goals do not occur in a vacuum. Overall, I was interested in how TGNC partners manage their task, identity, and relational needs within these disclosures about gender-affirming needs. But I also wanted to explore the possible conflicts that may arise between these communicative goals, with the idea that these goals might impede on the overall process of shifting roles and expectations towards co-satisfaction for relational partners. Thus, today, I'm going to give you an overview of just the 2 most prominent findings that I uncovered from this interpersonal study, featuring myself, a white, self-identified, transgender, and non-binary queer person who dates a white, cisgender, lesbian woman named Allie. To begin, the first scene I share is titled Agree to Disagree, and it tells the story of a time into my gender journey where, after a tremendously long day of being misgendered and referred to as she and her by classmates and teachers in my program, I was faced with being misgendered again by a server while going out to dinner with Allie. I had not yet shared my prior struggles of the day with Allie, so when the server called me a lady, Allie did nothing in the moment, nor did she really understand the depths of invalidation misgendering had on myself so early into my coming out. After the meal, we hopped in the car, and Allie proceeded to try to tell me how I needed to thicken my skin and not take encounters so personally. Trying to prevent a major argument, I shrugged off her opinion and I agreed not to let being misgendered by others hurt me so much. At first glance, my needs in this interaction with Allie seemed rather uncomplicated. I was tired after a long day of being misperceived by several important people in my life, and I wanted Allie's support at the end of the day, but my message was not received, or rather, the message wasn't seen as warranted from my romantic communicative partner at the time. Here's a small piece from my paper to better paint the picture. At one point in time, Allie hated that I was trans. We had been dating roughly 4 years at that point, but she actively let me know it made her uncomfortable and told me on multiple occasions she would not date another non-binary person in the future if we ever broke up. Allie and I met in undergrad, but once I came out as trans, she let me know that she had already made our future plans, and my gender journey wasn't supposed to be part of it. In this analysis, I argue that this communicative scene between my romantic partner and I is a troubling display of how relational identity goals can take precedent to gender identity and task goals in very uncomfortable ways if cis and TGNC romantic partners do not create relational expectations for each other to combat the lack of gender identity affirmation that may exist. First, my lack of confrontation and overall submission to Allie after she told me to toughen up exemplifies my first relational goal of just maintaining the peace. At this point in our relationship, Allie and I had been together for roughly 4 years. We lived 16 hours away from our family, we had animals we had adopted together, and just an overall codependency for each other's love and support. Allie and I were enmeshed and ready for many more years together. This leads me to my second most prominent relational identity goal that we possessed, which focuses on our relational roles at the time. As Allie's partner, I will gladly point out issues in the functionality of our relationship or things that she does that irritates me, like never changing out the toilet paper roll. But I never felt that it was my job to tell Allie what she was supposed to do or how she was supposed to take care of me. I had only been out as non-binary for roughly a year at that point, and we had not yet had a conversation about how that impacted our roles and expectations of each other as relational partners. Whether it be in the bedroom or in the sheets, we lacked crucial awareness about how we expected each other to behave and support each other now that our relationship had shifted from 2 lesbian women to a lesbian woman and a non-binary person. Allie and I ultimately did try to communicate our feelings about the misgendering. However, our goals were not met with the most positive results because we were not also addressing the gender identity needs present. Now let's move on to the second data analysis site real quickly. The second narrative I share is called No More Secrets, which centers on a panic attack I had after reading a study conducted by Blair and Hoskin in 2018 that found roughly 87.5% of folks in the study reported they would not even consider dating a TGNC person. While processing my panic and trying to figure out when I stopped becoming dateable, I snapped and began unraveling the pain, fear, shame, and anger I had been repressing about my gender-affirming health needs. I needed my girlfriend to understand urgently. No More Secrets suggests there are multiple competing communicative goals at play for myself as a TGNC partner. To begin, the conflict between relational identity goals and gender identity goals proved to be the most fascinating site for analysis. Again, even though it was roughly a year later from the previous story, at this point in our relationship as a trans and cis person, we were very much under the impression that we wanted a future together. However, my gender identity goals and needs were very much at odds with the continuation of our relationship. If Allie did not start helping me manage my identity in public more and shifting her own expectations of my gender identity. My gender identity goals in this situation suggested that I was fed up. I needed emotional support, affection, humorous camaraderie, and physical and communicative protection, and I needed it soon. When I began confessing to Allie, I had the opportunity to stop myself, but I chose and had the privilege of putting my trans self first. I put my gender identity above a romantic relationship in hopes that I would not have to lose my romantic relationship because of those gender-related identity needs. It was a risk I never thought I would have to take, and I'm so grateful Allie and I were able to work it out. But I also know so many trans cis romantic relationships that don't have the same happy ending. I know so many other TGNC folks who have had to walk away from romantic relationships because their gender identity is seen as too much, too weird, too gross, or too demanding. While TGNC people and the identity needs they possess are never too much of anything, and the cisgender community must begin shifting their perspective on who deserves relational care and support, because our gender identity should certainly not determine our perceived humanness or freedom to live authentic, healthy, affirming lives. Conclusively, this study demonstrates the complex identity and relational management of TGNC romantic partners. The negotiation process for TGNC romantic partners sometimes requires a shift in relational expectations, but this process doesn't have to happen alone. If cisgender romantic partners can work with their TGNC loved ones to accomplish critical conversations like coming out, discussing physical boundary management or role negotiation, and creating meaningful understandings about navigating TGNC identity together, like researching new language and identities, or going to doctor visits together, or even just literally having a conversation about what identity health needs exist. TGNC romantic partners are much more likely to be able to confidently manage the various communicative goals that they may pursue in future conversations. This study found several task, relational, and gender identity needs across two main scenes between a non-binary person and a cisgender woman who date over the course of several years. The data suggests there are multiple goals that compete and conflict with one another in these conversations, centering from everyday to long-lasting gender health needs. However, the study's contributions also extend the theory, and that the findings suggest that the relational gender identity goals can undergo shifts and changes in order to transition unsatisfying conflict to relational and gender identity satisfaction for cis and trans romantic partners. To end, I would like to share a small excerpt from my second narrative titled No More Secrets. Babe, I have to be honest with you. I'm really struggling. I hate being this way sometimes. I hate being non-binary. I don't stop for her response, but I felt her body separate from mine. I just can't stand how you act around me ever since I came out to you. You tiptoe around me. You act like correcting others is a chore. You never even ask me about my gender and pronouns. It's like it never even happened. Allie responds immediately, but I've been working on it. I've been getting better. I am heated at this point. Yes, babe, you have been better, but I need you to actively care about it. I need you to act like it's normal and joke around with me like you used to. I need your support. I can't do this alone anymore. There's silence. I look at Allie and she looks at me. She sighs, but not a hopeless sigh, more like the sigh you unconsciously do when you're just releasing emotional and physical weight off your chest. Allie opens her mouth, pauses, and says lovingly, Maddison, I love you. I support you. I will do better. I didn't know how much it was bothering you. I'll be better, I promise. Roughly a year later, I'm very happy to say that things with Allie have been great, and she has kept her promise with the utmost support, reassurance, and care. I'm happier than I have ever been in my gender identity, and our relational bond is the strongest it's ever been. Thank you all for your time and attention today, and please do your best to try to support the transgender and gender nonconforming people in your departments, in your families, and in your interpersonal lives in recognition of National Transgender Awareness Week. Have a great conference. Thank you, everyone.
Our third paper today is entitled Resilience as a Predictor for Why Some Marital Relationships Flourished and